factors that make you stand out from your competition and how you're going to sell that product.
Yep.
And I think
Yes.
I think that's the thing
Yes.
with Apple is they challenge the status quo because of their design and infrastructure on their particular product was so out there for the time.
Mhm.
It still is to a way. And so they have a following of people who enjoyed the fact that they were rebels in an industry where everything kind of fit in a box. And then secondly, they made themselves a sleeker design. So just the branding and the design is so different than what everyone else is offering. They got another following from that as well.
Absolutely.
So
and their marketing was on point. I mean,
yeah,
we talked about.
I mean, it was like the trifecta, right? So you got good marketing, their branding was awesome, and the product they were actually offering was
but
superior.
It all aligned
With
to their why.
Status quo, challenge the status quo. Yeah.
And in that, you can begin to connect to certain customers, but it again, we keep talking about this noisy marketplace, and as business owners, what we hear the most is just, how do I find my customer? How do I get my customers? How do I grow my business? So our answer to you, and directly from Simon, is not a lot of companies know their why. And he says almost verbatim, the most successful companies can articulate their why, and it starts at the top and trickles down.
Yeah.
And companies that have lost their way, individuals that have lost their way, have lost their why.
Yeah, and I think sometimes a company can get confused that their why is not the functionality of their product, right? Just because your product is innovative, that's not the why. The why has to be an emotional response.
Right. People are going to go along with your why and follow you. And he says this so many times, but it's not until you truly understand that it begins to click and make sense.
Yes, I agree.
And that's where Apple, I think, and this is what, Alex is doing with Good Boy, is they have created a lifestyle brand. Now, which is better? I mean, even Simon says that depends on what your need is. I think he does this comparison of a Ferrari versus a minivan.
Yeah. The person you're targeting, for example, would be a family of 4. They're going to go for a sedan or a minivan. However, you could do marketing around the person who just got empty nest syndrome. Right?
Sure.
And so now your Ferrari is going to be marketing to the person that all the kids left to college and they can finally get what they really want. So it's just kind of just keep that the why. You're coming back to your why. Like, what is
nest in the air?
Yeah. What is your why, and then kind of market around that.
Absolutely. Simon unlocks for us the understanding of kind of the outer part of our brain, which is considered like the neocortex, and then the inner part of our brain, which is the limbic part of the brain. And he aligns that with his golden circle.
Yep.
Because, companies, the outer part of his golden circle, companies know what they offer, and that's the outermost part. It's the inner part, the why, that drives the brand loyalty. It gets customers loyal and following you and has them buy from you. So he aligns, this is his golden circle, with the kind of the way the brain works. And we have this neocortex, and that's the outer part of our brain. And that is the part of our brain that wants the logical facts. They want the details about the TV or the computer or the car or the house, whatever it is that we're going to buy.
Yeah.
It needs the statistics, and we need to align it logically with why we would want it.
It's the practical application. It's the visualization part. When they say go visualize what it is, or go write it down, or go make a list of all the things that it's the logical part of your brain that's able to put it into creation, I guess you could say, right?
Absolutely. I would agree.
It's the creation part, right? But the limbic is
the emotional part. Yes. And this is where we actually make decisions.
Yeah.
And Simon explains this, and I thought this was so interesting. Like, we talk about why we like who we like, or who we like. You like Danny because he has certain physiques that you like, but how many men have dark hair also and are tall?
Yeah.
I love Kevin because he is, supportive and encouraging, but there are a lot of amazing supportive and encouraging people out there. So why was it Kevin specifically? Why was it for you, Danny? And there is you can't quantify why we make decisions that we make. You can't.
You can't. And I think that's why, and the people who have the biggest that analysis paralysis is because they have a hard time transitioning their gut feeling, right? Because the emotional part, the limbic brain, that is like your gut, the core, the part that you're not able to express with words, right? But it's there.
It's there.
Right? And you feel it. That's where analysis paralysis, I believe, happens, is because you cannot express it logically. You end up getting stuck.
Yes. And he gives a great example of a guy who needs a new TV. So he goes to the store, and of course, the salesman is going to provide him data, facts. And so he's like, okay. But in the end, aren't all TVs really? I mean, those of you who are tech gurus are probably like, what? No. But isn't a TV really? For the most part.
It is.
Right?
So actually in sales, one of the things that and you'll be able to completely relate with me. In sales, they say if you want to nail a sale, you need to touch them emotionally, right? So you have to paint the picture. You have to make them visualize where they're at, get them into an emotional state where they connect with that product or service emotionally, and then you've nailed the sale.
You got to realize your customers are going through this
same
every moment.
Yeah.
And depending on what it is you offer, especially if something you offer is like a renewable, like they need to buy it often, like they're constantly assessing what is the best decision for them. And in the end, they're going to retreat to what's the easiest or maybe the best price, even though they may not. So if you don't start with your why, with what you're doing, your customers don't have a way to connect to you emotionally.
Yep, absolutely. I like how you said, because they'll default to price. And that's where the whole manipulation of selling is going on, where you start lowering your prices, that you're getting it to a point where it's an impulsive buy. And that point they've rationalized using that neocortex. They've rationalized in their head, well, there's no risk because it was such a cheap price. If it doesn't work out, I didn't really lose anything.
Right.
But to get the higher quality or higher quantity, you got to offer them the quality. And not only that, you have to make them connect to you in a way that's saying, I'm okay with paying this higher price because I see their bigger vision, or I connect with them on an emotional state that I know I'm supporting them in this way.
Absolutely.
And so they rationalize it in
or
a
just
different
how
way.
It makes them feel when they're there.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We've painted the picture of Simon's golden circle, which he very much connects to even the golden circle in biology, right? And how there is order and intention and everything. The way he writes this and then explains it through this second part of his book is actually really intriguing. But where it really, I think the laundry part, and then where he talks about Apple's why. Like finally, he talks about it so much.
Yeah.
And he says that Apple challenges the status quo and wants to give kind of the common man a way to go up against the big corporations, more or less.
That was Wozniak.
Yes.
Wozniak,
yes.
Yeah.
But he says if you ask an Apple lover why they're buying Apple products, they're not going to say, because I like to challenge the status quo.
They're not rebels.
No. They just talk about that it's the best computer for them, or they really connect to the brand. So it's yet once again proof that it is emotional and it's for the individual.
But it's also a quality product.
Oh, of course.
And I think that's the thing with Apple is they challenge the status quo because of their design and infrastructure on their particular product was so out there for the time. It still is to a way. And so they have a following of people who enjoyed the fact that they were rebels in an industry where everything kind of fit in a box. And then secondly, they made themselves a sleeker design. So just the branding and the design is so different than what everyone else is offering. They got another following from that as well.
Absolutely.
So
their marketing was on point. I mean, we talked about.
I mean, it was like the trifecta, right? So you got good marketing, their branding was awesome, and the product they were actually offering was superior.
But it all aligned with their why.
Status quo, challenge the status quo. Yes. Yeah. So even their branding, they were one of the first that started doing those commercials that way. And so when they started doing the commercials, and I'm not going to go deep into the commercials. If you don't know which commercials I'm talking about, look up past Apple commercials.
Yes.
But they were very much along the lines of doing something different when it came to commercials. They made commercials cool and funny. And because that challenged the status quo, everyone else was trying to pressure you into selling or buying whatever they were selling. They did the opposite. Their branding and the way they branded themselves. Oh, it's an apple, guys. And at the time, it was rainbow colored. I mean, how weird is that? And then the product they were offering was revolutionary. But all of that aligned again with challenging the status quo. Mm-hmm. So the why was embedded in every single endeavor they did along with their company.
Well, it also helped shape decisions they made to stay relevant.
Yeah.
And I think Simon gives a lot of great examples of companies that came out with something. I think the various PC companies, Dell and somebody else, had come out with things, but nobody in the market really recognized it because they stood for offering computers. So when they came out with something that deviated from that, the market didn't know what to do with it.
They didn't know how to do with it because they ended up doing a copycat. Like you said in previous, there is nothing new. They're all reiterations and reinventing what's already been made. Well, Dell and them did exactly that. Apple did something revolutionary. They went and did their own reiteration of it, and that's why it didn't hit. We can sniff a copycat out.
Absolutely. And especially when there isn't an authenticity behind it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing too, because we as consumers buy emotionally.
There's nothing wrong with so you can see someone who's successful and you can build upon that, right? Mm-hmm. You can do your own version of it, but it has to be your own version. It has to be authentic.
As Simon continues through this second part of the book, he has asked salesmen why they are successful. And a salesman truly says they have to believe in what it is that they're selling. So again, he's pulling it to that why. And I really love his telling of the Southwest journey.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Southwest came out of, their goal was not to be in competition with the other major airlines, because at that point in the 70s, air travel was so expensive.
Yeah.
So
that's when they used to give you prime rib in first class.
Right.
Now you get a moist towelette.
You have to ask for it.
You need to ask for some champagne. They used to have it waiting for you going up those stairs.
Right.
Come on, guys.
But what Southwest determined that their competition was actually cars and buses, because they wanted to serve kind of the working man.
Yeah.
They wanted their flights to be affordable. So why would they compare themselves to those expensive airlines?
Yeah.
So they wanted it to be affordable and they wanted it to be fun. They had their why from the get-go. And this book is laden with so many examples of businesses that started with why, or businesses that didn't.
Yeah.
Or businesses that started with it and then lost their why.
It got fuzzy.
It got a little fuzzy. Absolutely. But he wraps this part up really with unlocking how we as consumers shop and understanding that there really are 3 degrees of certainty coming from consumers. The first is obviously your rational basis, right? Somebody's going to say, I think I'm getting the right thing based on the facts and the details. That guy who's getting a TV, I think I'm getting the right thing. But then people shop truly with their limbic brain, and that's where their gut feeling comes in. Yep. And they're like, I feel like this is the right decision. But when a consumer's why aligns with the why of the company, for example, I do love dogs, so I have no problem forever now going forward supporting this particular vodka, because I like that every bottle that I buy is going to go towards, my husband was a veteran, we love dogs and things like that. They have a new loyal customer out of me. So
me too, because your taste great.
Well, it tastes amazing.
Yeah.
But emotionally.
Yeah. Emotionally, I love the mission that they have.
Yes.
I absolutely love that mission. Yeah. When your why is not there from the onset, and how it can get fuzzy. So for example, in the music industry, he touched on this multiple times about, how Apple came out with the iPod, right?
Versus the MP3 player.
Mm-hmm. And that was the only one that actually really did hit, right? The music industry was disrupted because of the fact that now you could be able to get music on a different avenue versus just hearing it on the radio or CDs or records.
Carrying around a couple tapes
yes.
for a Walkman or a...
Yeah. And so the music industry's ability not to see from a new perspective led them to a lot of pain. It's only within recently in the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years did they really figure out a way to do it, but there was pain points for quite a few years regarding that. The other thing is railroads, right? Railroads were too heavily focused on the what.
On what they did. Yeah.
Yeah, which is just delivering goods, people
across the country.
The country, right?
Yep.
And they failed to adjust their business model when customers' behavior changed due to technology, right?
Yeah.
So when we started building mass highways or expressways, airplanes,
right? I think he even says, had they been more focused on helping people get from point A to point B efficiently, they might have evolved.
And that's the why. If their why would have been more focused on efficiency of delivering a service to the customer, and the customer wants to get somewhere efficient and quickly and safely, right? So if they would have really focused on that being their why, they would have been able to evolve with the times.
Yep.
And so another one he talks about was newspapers, televisions, and publishing, right? So similar to the railroads, because railroads is like 100 years ago, right? We're talking about that, but this is happening now.
This is right now.
They're similar to the railroads because they failed to define values to serve the customer's needs. It became more about them and how many newspapers they can sell, how many ads they could book on slots, and how much they could charge for publishing. And because it became more about how much money they can make and not about how fast they could spread the information needed to the customer, they are now not where they need to be in relevance. In relevancy, and they are challenged by technology.
Yep.
So I just really love how he put these in perspective of things that have happened in the past and common occurrences now.
And they are all archaic dinosaurs at this point.
So just something to think about, how why has to be at the core.
Yes, to help you stand out. That's what we talked about.
Stand out, evolve, noticing when challenges are coming up that need your expertise to figure out a way around
that.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because like we said at the beginning, customers buy why you do what you do, not what. It's not a logical decision. You cannot rationalize your way through getting more customers.
Exactly.
You've got to connect to them emotionally. Y'all, I hope this was helpful for you on your journey as you want to grow your own business or start up your own business.
Yeah.
Really, starting with that why foundation is so important.
Yeah. So if you know anyone who's having issues kind of cutting through the noise or figuring out how to stand out from their competition, hey guys, please share the video.
Yes, please.
Yes.
We love when you like and subscribe and hit the little bell button so you know when our next episode, next Saturday, is coming out and we dig deeper into this. But share comments, let us know what you think, what you want more of from us. But pass this along. You know a business owner who's struggling with, getting their business back on track, or maybe somebody you work with.
Or even if you're just starting out. At Sage Consultants, we help clients that are newly established or just starting out and they really want to figure out what their differentiating factor is. This is a great way to figure it out. Start with why and go from there.
Absolutely. So thank you all for joining us with this. And thanks you guys for joining us.
Guys.
See you next week.
Bye.